My wife and I were married. We moved to an apartment that was about 3 blocks north of here. We spent our first maybe 6 months living there. We had gone on a bit of a road trip in the meantime down to Mexico, and just had some time to kind of rethink where we're at and what we're into. And during that trip, we decided that we really wanted to. We had some friends who had started this church in the neighborhood, and just a really neighborhood-focused church community, and just into a space that felt more fitting for our who we are. And we moved in to this home, and there was we had this big backyard that was pretty junked up when we first moved there, and we decided we were like, how fun would that be to have a garden back there? So we had a bunch of friends kind of got in on it with us, and we decided to, and our church community actually did as well, and decided to make this garden together. And we kind of knew what the feel of some of the population in here, and that it's a very transient kind of culture, that a lot of people are living in motels or in their cars and things like that. And we were wanting to kind of have some sort of a connection to our neighbors and to know the people that we live among and nearby. But it's kind of an awkward, I mean, you can't just like go like bang on someone's van door or knock on their hotel room. It was really neat the way this garden kind of came to be. It became a place where it was really easy for us to invite people to come over and hang out in the garden. And we ended up having like these regular barbecues back there, and it just became a really safe, kind of neutral place for people to meet and be together, and to begin seeing this, whatever this thing that I see happening, that the Commons is really formed around, is this vision that we started having back there, or this whatever this kind of thing that we started catching on to back there, which is unexplainable, but it really has something to do with it feels like another world when you're kind of in this space that we started experiencing. Just the way neighbors came together was something that you're just thinking different. Like you see each other in different ways, and we were like, if you step back, you might realize that, wow, there's like a homeless person talking to a businessman, or like things like that, and like and as if they're like neighbors, as if they actually like recognize each other as neighbors. And we started seeing that was actually happening, but the thing that's not really explainable is just how, when it's actually happening, you're not aware of it, and it was just really natural and fluid, and something that we felt like we were all just kind of like catching on to and experiencing together. It wasn't something that was contrived. It wasn't something that we sat around and were like, hey, let's start this program that's going to get neighbors interacting with each other. It was we all just wanted to know each other, and we all started being together in these spaces, and so that, to me, I mean, from my perspective, like this garden experience was really beautiful for all of us, for everyone that was part of it, whether it was my wife and I, because it's our backyard and we get to look out and see all these people hanging out, or this garden growing up, or whether it's people who, I remember the first summer there was a guy who was in town for a while that just didn't have a place to stay, and he pitched a tent back there for a couple weeks, and it was just really, and then he participated. He made the sign for the community, Aurora Communal Garden. I feel like what's happening at the Commons here is in my mind, and sort of my getting behind it and wanting to be participating in it, and the part that I've been most excited about is that it just feels like an extension of that experience, an extension of the garden. It's sort of, I mean, when it rains, like we'd hang out in the summer, but then it rains, and we can't always be there, and we can't always be having these barbecues. And so to have this space here, it just feels like we can now, and we can kind of have a neutral space where we're bumping into each other, and people are all kind of taking ownership of it together. And I've always thought, love your neighbor. I'm part of a church. That's what we're supposed to do. So what that means has kind of become a lot more real in my mind. But One thing that's been really fascinating about my time here is to start calling this a neighborhood is kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people, which is even that that experience itself has been really powerful. If you're buying real estate, if you're looking in the market, there's nothing that says, here's a house for sale in Aurora, like no one's going to say that. So there's this divide, and then the closer you get to Aurora, it's more the way it seems like there's less and less of an identity. That in my own mind, I've started to experience it more and more. Like when you start to name this little area as a neighborhood, it actually is becoming that, and it's becoming like it's kind of has its own identity, and it has its own demographic, and it has its own way of that people relate to one another, and it's really beautiful. Really, it feels like there's this sense of freedom in this little area that for neighbors to kind of be like relate to one another a lot more than what you generally see in Seattle. A blessing to be part of that. And I think that's helpful for my neighbors too, who live here, and to actually feel like they have a home. Like even if they're maybe would be considered homeless, like they actually have a location that is kind of central to who they are and how they live. And I think I could have told you that community is good, and that neighbors, you should love your neighbor and all that kind of stuff, but I haven't really known what that meant. I feel like I have a lot bigger sense of what that means from having lived here. So putting this space together has been a journey for sure. Getting the space was really, it was even that was it took some conniving and some, we saw the space was for rent and had to do some work just to get ourselves on a lease here. And then we didn't have a budget, and to feel at home and just comfortable in a space and it's important to us. And it wasn't that way when we got the space, so it was definitely a given that we were going to be doing some work on it. And we didn't have, it's not like we could like hire a contracting crew to come and do it. And so it's been very challenging to do a project of this kind of magnitude with almost all volunteer work. And he's brilliant, excellent contractor, John Edson. We wouldn't have even been able to like draw up plans if we hadn't had him as part of it. Like just even dream it. Even John's knowledge and abilities, and that's been just crucial to having this project happen. But then just the volume of volunteers that have been just awesome for just doing the work, and the grunt work and crappy work, like tearing out the ceiling and tearing up the floor and putting up drywall, and it's not all glamour, the last bit of it has been great, but a lot of the work was just people willing to come and be together and then even that has been like a lesson in community too, because we'd say, oh, if anybody wants to do work, we can give you some ideas of projects, you can go and get them done, and nobody ever does that. But we'd say, like on your own time, feel free we'll give you keys, you can get in and go do some work. We'd have these days, these volunteer days that we'd kind of say, okay, this Saturday is going to be a work party in the Commons, and Karen would kind of set it all up, get the word out, and then like tons of people would show up. And they'd show up because we were all like working together and listening to music and eating pizza and working a little bit, and it was just fun, like just fun days, and made the work here possible and just really enjoyable. A part of it too has been just being so limited in our resources. Like you just see the imagination just flourishes in a place like that, and our community's imagination is it's really, really grown, I think, through this experience. A lot of the kind of, maybe you call them old timers, the people who have been part of this neighborhood a lot longer than I have, and have seen kind of this group of young, like kind of, energetic people come in and make a space in the neighborhood, you know, and be like, we're gonna, you know, maybe it's kind of that savior mentality, savior kind of figure thing that comes to mind. And of course that's met with skepticism for good reason, by people who have been around for a long time. And we definitely got our fair share of kind of skeptical words and looks. And that was throughout the course of the project, and it was really neat to see. So I mean, there was definitely stages where people were kind of like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is kind of a joke. Like, this place has been through, this place we're in has been through so many different kind of owners and remodels and you name it. To watch our neighbors who were at first very skeptical of the work kind of have this transition as they started to see the beauty of it and started to see it come together. And then to go from that to not just being okay with it, but actually like joining it. People who were not even really interested in seeing this place, seeing anything happen here, were suddenly like volunteering their time to work on it, and are spending a lot of like every day hanging out here and love it. There's just like there's kind of this, I wish I knew what to call it. There's just kind of this world, this like secondary world thing, this kind of thing that people like get a glimpse of, and then we kind of, I feel like a lot of it is just like we make little portals for people that get in, you know, like the Tolkien, you know, like you got to enter into this secondary world somehow, and we make little portals for it, and that's really, I feel like, all we're doing. Like, that's the only, maybe if there is like one thing that kind of the more core group of people that are working on this are doing is just trying to make these little portals for this world that we've experienced and that we know already exists, and help people find ways to enter into that. Through creating this space, we've gotten to see that happen, like actually like physically happen with some people, or like, so I've gotten to observe that, and that's been neat. It's been really neat. Okay. So one thing, if I can just depending on the audience and who you are that's watching this video, hurting people in our neighborhood and broken people. There are in yours too, wherever that is. And really, I have no doubt that the most important thing for healing is for people to have healthy relationships and interactions with others, and that goes for that goes for all of us, but especially for people who are down and out and are maybe struggling, at a place of struggling. Like, just that myth that you can create your own redemption or healing is just not, like, it's a lie. Like, people need each other to heal. It just doesn't happen in isolation, and they need, a lot of times people are past a point where they can create those relationships on their own, and they might need a bit of a boost from people who are maybe in a healthier place.
I have been in Seattle about a year and a half. I've been working with the Aurora Commons for a little over 6 months now. I originally was volunteering with their community garden and have gotten more involved, and came on as their program coordinator after that, and have just really enjoyed being part of the community here. The Aurora Commons serves as a neighborhood living room. It's a place where you are welcome to come and to be and to share space and conversation and relationship, regardless of what your story is. And it's a place to share story and to be who you are and where you're at. We don't sell anything. You can't buy anything here. And that is one of the most powerful ways that we have just been able to kind of subvert some of the themes that we see in day-to-day life, is that you have to earn your right to be somewhere by purchasing something, or looking a certain way, or talking a certain way, or viewing life through a certain way. And we're really challenging a lot of those norms by inviting anyone and everyone to come be here and to share life and to share space and to share the fullness of relationship and conversation, and it's a really refreshing and incredible thing to see the rich and the poor sharing coffee and sharing conversation and having friendship with one another. And you can't tell by people's smile and by their story necessarily where they've been or where they're going. And that's a great thing to just see the overlap there and realize at any given moment here in this space you can be with a refugee family or a church family or a homeowner or a business person or someone who lives in their van, and each person is equally welcome and equally loved. I recently finished a master's program in sustainable communities, and for that program I was looking at the interdisciplinary aspects of what makes a community sustainable, not only environmentally but sociologically as well, and found that I think the strongest influence is when governmental services, green spaces, a nurturing community of support and spirituality are combined in a more holistic network for people, and that is what we do here at the Aurora Commons. So it's a real life application of what seemed like a very ambiguous degree. I think for me, looking at what makes something a sustainable community, it does need to be holistic. It needs to be created by the people, for the people, and be inclusive of story, and be inclusive of beauty, and be inclusive of one's spirituality and practices, as well as movement, and recognizing the dignity and the beauty in each person and the gifts that each person has to offer back to the community, and helping to invite each person to use their gifts in the community for the community is one of the most important aspects of creating a good and sustainable place for us to do life together. We've been really fortunate to have Jackie Moulton, who's a local artist, come teach a free class for members in the community. Each week, the instructor picks a different emotion that we explore through watercolor or finger painting or sculpture, and just some of the conversations and the pieces have been incredible, and such a beautiful look at different people's experiences and takes on themselves, and watching how many of us share those emotions, and we all express them with different colors and different techniques, but we also have those threads in common of that we're all just using the same materials to express ourselves and to share with others those things that are sometimes beyond words. One artist talked about how it felt like all of the words and phrases and experiences in her life sometimes went through her head like she was watching them through a window, and if each raindrop had a different color, what that would look like as it went down the window and left that mark upon her lens in which she looks at the world through. And so they're just really great classes and good themes. I think it's been an incredible way to share story and share the human condition.
same great sea, and we all carry the same dream. We are all gemstones in the same shining jewel, and we all carry the same dream. We are all stars in the same great sky, and we all carry the same dream. It's the dream of unity. It's the dream of you and me. It's the dream that every living heart is happy, healed and free. It's the dream of unity. It's the dream of you and me. It's the dream that we are already dancing as one. We are all dolphins swimming through the foam, and we all hear the call for love. Swimming through emotions we can't see, I am reaching out for you and you for me. It's the dream of unity. It's the dream of you and me. It's the dream that every living heart is happy, healed and free. It's the dream of unity. It's the dream of you and me. It's the dream that we are already living as one. We are all cells in the same dream, and we all carry the same dream. Returning to our home as light, shining through eternity. We are all dream the same dream, and dream of unity. Returning to the same dreams, shining through eternity. It's the dream of we know who we are. We shine bright like the star. Love flows through our veins as love we long to come again. We know who we are. We shine bright like the star. Love is who we are. Let light shine into the darkest place on earth. Let every soul know its true worth. Let love rain from the heavens above. Let every soul be wrapped in love. Hold the vision that we're all listen.